Change event streaming is now public preview across all of SQL, including Azure SQL Database Hyperscale, Azure SQL Managed Instance, SQL DB in Fabric, and SQL Server 2025. Learn all about it and see some demos and learn some very important gotchas this week on Data Exposed. Hi, I'm Anna Hoffman, and welcome back to Data Exposed. Today, I'm joined by Nicola. Nicola, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been a while, but it's great to have you back.
Always a pleasure.
Awesome. Always a pleasure to have you on. And today, really this week at Microsoft Build, we had some exciting news, and that's change event streaming went public preview for SQL Database in Fabric. But I actually wanted to back up. We're going to talk a lot about this. So, Nicola, can we get right into it? And you tell us a little bit about kind of the scenarios for change event streamings or what people might even want to do and what even this is.
Absolutely. So I'm not going to talk a lot about the data being the fuel of 21st century and real time being the norm today. That's all well known to you data people. But wherever we turn in day-to-day lives, we're still hitting batch-based experiences. Think about credit card statements. Think about stocks on e-commerce portals. Think about order shipping tracking, where today it says one status, tomorrow it shows 5 more statuses. You don't really know what happened during the day. The tooling was simply not there for the longest of history, and we're wanting to change this with SQL. And we have added a feature called change event streaming, which allows you to take your data, stream it as it gets inserted, updated, or deleted into message buses, and there you can tap into it by many different consumers, keeping the operational load intact from being pulled by all these consumers. Um, Typical scenarios we see this will play out well is augmenting monolithic applications. Think of that decade-old system that you have that's becoming slow to add features to. Maybe you want to add features as microservices going forward, but those microservices need to tap into the data stream of the original application. Maybe you want to completely break down your monolith into microservices. Again, you need a reliable transport mechanism of relevant data from that app. Near real-time analytics on top of relational data is also popular. If we think about traditional ETLs and the medallion architecture, bronze, silver, gold, every layer of data processing is a batch, which needs to be left ample time of buffer before the next batch continues. So we're talking about hours away from data ready for doing analytics on, if we're strictly in the ETL space. And then data synchronization across multiple systems. Like you could build something point to point between the two systems, but as soon as you start adding different data sources, you need a unified way to have a data bus for all your data. We're going to do a little demo, and we're going to be doing an augmentation of web shop with a new module, which is a microservice that will send coupons for bike helmets to everyone who buys a bicycle.
Makes sense.
So the microservice will be sending the events, and it will be tapping into the event stream that's come out of SQL. And let's dive right in. So we first need to enable the feature. And as we do that, we will create something called an event stream group. An event stream group is basically a container for your destination information. So we give it a name. We say the destination is Azure Event Hubs, and then the protocol AMQP or Kafka. Destination location is just the endpoint. We need to obviously authenticate there. And we need to tell SQL how to chunk the messages in case there's a lot of data, large messages, large rows being sent. Partitioning key schemes, we're going to leave for another more in-depth episode. And then adding our object, which is dbo.purchases, into this stream group will actually tell SQL that now starts streaming towards this destination. And so now we're going to insert one purchase, which is a bicycle, for my name as an order. And we're going to do this insert, and we're going to fire up our console app that's going to act like a microservice. It's going to be monitoring the event hub for inbound data. And we can see this JSON showed up already. It's a purchase with ID 224, which is a bicycle. and it's on my name. And you can see it already has sent an email with a coupon. Um, we can see now in my inbox how this look like. Here it is. It's a bike helmet discount, and we'll soon see the order is 224, which matches what we had in the insert itself.
Nice. That's awesome. Quick question about the demo. So basically what happened is you set up change event streaming, which actually seemed pretty straightforward to do, just kind of 3 commands to get it all configured. Then you showed us an example, and in this case, your console app, this was like the app or microservice, as you said, that's taking in the stream, and that's what we saw show, like, pretty much immediately. It came in that you had purchased something, and then it reacted from the stream and sent you an email, and we saw all that. So, seems awesome, really straightforward, but I'd love to understand a little bit more about, like, how it works.
hmm Absolutely. So, and that's exactly what I was coming to. So, it works by scanning the transaction log on the SQL side, identifies committed transactions for changes, and if those are from tables that are configured for streaming, it serializes this as something called cloud events and sends the payloads to Azure Event Hubs, where you can tap into this by any different mechanism. This was an example with a C# console app, but any modern technology will be able to pull that and pull the data out. So this is similar to how CDC works, except it streams the data out immediately. So currently, CES integrates to Azure Event Hubs and Fabric Event Stream as a destination. It does not stream to native Kafka yet, but we can run with a Kafka compatible endpoints for Azure Event Hubs and the Fabric Event Streams, which means we can use Kafka protocol, and the destination is still going to be Azure or Fabric as the destination from SQL. If we compare it to CDC, basically it also scans the transaction log, but then the changes it harvests, it saves into the database itself. So if you think about it, it's basically double writes. You write something into SQL, and then it gets written to another table, and it has had some perf penalty, which we are hoping to remove with change event streaming, because as soon as we detect a change, we simply stream it out. There's no double write into SQL.
Okay, got it. So is that the biggest difference then is basically like they're both push models, like changes come in and they push immediately to the new source, but the difference is we're not doing this double write. Anything else that people should be aware of as to how that works?
Yeah. So I would say for CDC, you still need consumers to poll, and that's going to
Oh,
be like if you have 10 consumers, they're all going to be polling SQL for changes. Or
oh,
maybe
okay.
you put an app that's going to poll and then do a transport somewhere else, but then you're in charge of that app and monitoring and configuring credentials and everything. SQL takes care of all of this for you. Um, um, Coming back to your question, like any other differences, I would say the biggest one is you can keep all your consumers at bay without touching SQL. SQL just streams to one point with change event streaming.
Ah, nice, nice. Okay, got it. And then as far as like how this might compare to mirroring, because that's another scenario where we hear a lot about for near oh, you got it exactly, for near real-time analytics. Like why
Yeah,
do we choose or do we use both or transREPL is also there?
Yeah, the way we think about this is like this. If you need a universal data stream that you're going to be building different integrations on top, that's for CES. Basically, SQL to a common message bus, and then tap into that message bus by whatever you're comfortable with or your needs are. And it's going to give you that. However, you do need to set up your consumers, and it's a little bit more involved than mirroring, which is point and click, select your tables, and they just
Right.
show up in your one lake. However, with mirroring, it's point and click, but it's one destination. With CES, you can, and the destination is one lake, right? Where in CES, you get basically to tap into this by different consumers, which may be polling this data in a little bit more real time than mirroring, although mirroring is super fast as well, it's still a little bit more batched in nature than change event streaming that you can tap into using stream analytics and similar processes to actually take that data that's streaming from SQL and transform it in real time, really, and basically get your gold layer in fewer you know in lesser time, basically. And transactional replication is still king if you want to replicate SQL to SQL, because it's exactly what it's built for. So with CES, you could achieve the same, but then you would need to build a consumer of events from the message bus, and that's going to be syncing this into SQL. TranRepl already takes care of that, so we still recommend that as the best approach for SQL to SQL.
Makes sense. This makes a ton of sense. I love the way it's laid out here. And then I guess maybe one of my final questions is about, like, we've talked a lot about SQL, and then I have to ask, right, like, which SQL? Because we have many different ways you might be deploying SQL Server or Azure SQL today.
Yes. So currently, the feature is in public preview for SQL Server 2025, Azure SQL Database and Managed Instance, and also SQL Database in Fabric. So basically, all flavors of SQL that are the most popular are already in public preview. Azure SQL Database, of course, includes our flagship hyperscale, so that's taken care of. Basically, it's public preview across the board. The one that's lagging behind is SQL on Linux, but we're working on that as well. So that's gonna be landing
Awesome.
hopefully this.
Great. Well, Nikolai, I've learned so much. I guess just one last question is, any final tips or tricks for folks as they're getting started or working on implementing this?
Absolutely. So because this feature guarantees delivery, it takes care of that for you. And this data source for the events is actually transaction log. SQL holds the transaction log truncation point at the last event that was successfully sent. And so uh, when you're setting this up, make sure your network connectivity works and you don't have auth or credential issues, and monitor for any errors. Because if there is an error in streaming, um, basically SQL will keep trying to stream that identified record again and again and again. And it's going to prevent log from truncating, which means your log is going to grow. And only after the error is removed, like you fix the credentials or you fix the network connectivity, the event will continue flowing, and then the log can be truncated from that point onwards. Also, a common pitfall is make sure that your destination has enough throughput for the events you're intending to stream, because if it's not of right size, it's going to throttle SQL. And so SQL is going to be retrying and retrying and getting throttled. So you're going to be wasting events basically in bunches of retries, which also going to tax your perf basically. So I would say that's a pro tip. Like make sure you monitor this and make sure when you're setting this up, don't just leave it. And because if it's a highly transactional system with a lot of changes, your log file is going to grow like crazy if something's wrong.
Awesome. Those are actually two very important tips. So thanks so much for sharing those. Thanks for coming on the show. I learned a lot. To our users, I think they also learned a lot as well. To our viewers, if you like this episode, go ahead, leave a like and a comment. Let us know what scenarios you intend to use CES for. We're going to put some links in the description for you to learn more, reach out to the team, and also a survey that we're running where we'd love to get your feedback on CES. So be sure to check the description for those links. And we hope to see you next time on Data Exposed.